Hey gang, Ronin here. Welcome on back to the Retrocade. It's Saturday. That means it's time for another Sports Saturday. And I figured this weekend, you could argue it's a sport. I don't care. I'm going with it because I love auto racing. And what better way to kick off an auto racing game than to play one of the greatest games of all time. We're playing the original Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. As always, if you've been enjoying the content, best way to show it is to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. We also have Sucker Punch Sunday coming up tomorrow, where we will play a fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. You can follow us on Twitter at @Retrocade. If you can, help spread the word. We're still trying to hit our goal of 100 subscribers. Sooner we do, the faster we will unlock the customizable YouTube algorithms and make this channel bigger and better. And if there's a game you'd like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, SNK Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below, drop me a tweet, give me any game you want. Now, why are we playing Super Mario Kart? Because one, after having a long week of grinding through Final Fantasy VI, we are almost done with our first time playthrough of that epic role-playing game. And because I'm still kind of recuperating from getting my secondary COVID shot, I really wasn't in the mood to go out of my way and find a game that was going to be really immersive and take a whole lot of explanation. I just want to be able to have fun today and play a game that I have loved for a really, really long time. And I say that as somebody who never, ever, ever owned a Super Nintendo. Now, if you have been living on another planet for I don't know how long, you may or may not have any idea about Mario Kart, but it is one of the most widely celebrated, most widely acclaimed, best-selling franchises of all time. And as I have said over and over and over again about a lot of the great games from what I consider the golden age, from 1984 to 2010, the simplicity of the game often belies its complexity. And what we're going to do over the next about 28 minutes or so is we're going to see just how far we can get in this game. Again, it's not something that I'm unfamiliar with, but for kids like me who were growing up looking for games to play, and I grew up in a family that liked auto racing. And again, you can say what you will about it. Is it a sport? Is it not? In the same way, like when we played golf 2 weeks ago, was it a sport? Is it not? When you take into account the amount of work that a race car driver has to put in to be able to drive, not just fast, but consistently fast and on the limit of what you're able to do with things like grip, and over the course of a long race, and I swear to God, I have not been drinking today. I can actually drive in a straight line. I just haven't played this game in so long, and I'm so used to driving with a steering wheel that it does make things a little bit wonky to get used to it. But as I was saying, I understand that people may not consider auto racing a sport, and that's your own prerogative. I, however, do, because I understand the amount of work that a race car driver, even not even racing at like the highest limits of the sport for things like, say, Formula 1 or NASCAR or IndyCar, when you think about the rigors that the human body goes through in the span of a race, it's really amazing the amount of conditioning that they have to undergo to handle that sort of exertion. You know, in a 2-hour Formula 1 race, it is not uncommon for even an average Formula 1 driver, and there's nothing average about a Formula 1 driver, to lose upwards of, I believe, 10 to 15 pounds in just fluid weight from the time they start to the time they end. You have to be able to handle the G-forces of going at high speeds through corners over a long race. You think about endurance drivers who have to drive, 12 to 24 hours. They don't do it all in singular races. I mean, obviously you do when you have things like Le Mans and the 24-hour Daytona and things like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is that in order to do those sorts of endurance races, you don't just jump in a car and drive for 24 hours. My thing is that in that respect, you have to be able to handle driving for 4 to 6 hours at a time over multiple stints in day, night, bad weather, good weather. And it wreaks havoc on you both physiologically and psychologically. But the reason why I still play this game now over 30 years later, and Mario Kart came out, Super Mario Kart I should say, came out in 1992 for the Super NES, is because it's still challenging, it's still fun, and visually, again, they got the package totally right. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Gotta get by Yoshi. It's not a hard game to play. You have one button for the gas, and if you know how to race cars, and you know how to drive go-karts, then you don't even really need the brakes. At least not in the early races. Again, the steering, driving with a D-pad, I play a lot of games like Gran Turismo, and I play the Formula 1 game from 2020, and I have a steering wheel. Obviously, a steering wheel is not going to help me on a game like this, so going back and driving with a D-pad does take a little bit of getting used to again. But other than that, it's an intuitive game to play, and visually, as you can see, it's like all the really great 90s games. Somehow, by the time you got through the 8-bit generation, and that's not to suggest in any way that there were bad-looking 8-bit games. There are some 8-bit games that were truly fantastic. And among the ones that spring to mind are games like Super Mario 2, which I understand people malign. I personally love it. Super Mario 3, without question, one of the greatest 8-bit games, one of the greatest video games, period. Especially in terms of the way it's visually presented. Then you even take into account games like Metroid, Kid Icarus, stuff like that. But by the time they hit the 16-bit generation, it just seemed like the game companies at the time, and Nintendo was obviously chief among them, they really just got it down. It became as much of a science as it did in art. And even with the way it's presented with the split screen, where you have the top screen showing you what you're doing as you're driving around the track, and the bottom screen which gives you the proximity of everybody else on the course. That was a really novel idea. And again, this game is so beloved by so many people that even the Guinness Book of World Records considers Super Mario Kart the greatest console game of all time. And when you think about how many other games have reached equal stature over the last 35, 40 years, that you have this little simple racing game that really wasn't meant to be anything huge. You know, it's just a really simple multiplayer game with 8 characters. Again, there's not a lot of frills, there's not a lot of fanfare to it. It was just a really, really fun game that ticked enough boxes. It was a game that if you were a parent and you had a kid and they had a Super Nintendo, you could get it for them and not worry about a damn thing. You know, and you have to remember, this is back in the 90s. that was something that parents really worried about. That was when we got the ESRB. That's when we had the crackdown on what people considered to be violent video games and what kids were being exposed to. And you can make a lot of arguments about whether or not things like the ESRB was a good thing. You know, it's what it is at this point. It's going to be around till a lot of us are no longer playing games and a lot of us are no longer alive. In some ways, you can chalk it up to a similar sort of legislative system, if you want to call it that, as the old Comics Code Authority was for comics back until pretty much about the turn of the millennium. And then people understood that it was outdated and obsolete. You know, and I say this as somebody who has a child who is into playing video games. And while I understand it's important to bring into account the context and other, you know, key elements of why certain things may not be appropriate for kids of a certain age, I can at least accept the fact that it gives me another slight tool to be able to, you know, help my kid understand when they get to certain ages, then okay. And I will say, for the sake of argument, that my son, who is now 10, loves Mario Kart. And because this original version was so successful, it has spawned, I believe now, 8 sequels. I had the, for a brief period of time, I had the DS, or I had the DS Lite rather, and when Mario Kart came out on that was the first DS game I bought. And I played the hell out of that game. But even if you don't know a whole lot about the fundamentals of racing, this is one where you can just sit down with your friends and have fun. And again, because you had the option of, you know, of picking different characters and having multiplayer accessibility. Ooh, I got spun around there. That one would be cool. Alright, I'm gonna start knocking people out here. You know, you can just sit down with your friends and play for however long you want. And the learning curve is not too steep. Again, if you know how to race and you know how to drive and you know how to drive well, it admittedly makes it a little bit easier. And the key to the game, honestly, is understanding how to get your way through corners. And knowing you don't have to floor it going through most corners, and you don't have to always slam on the brakes to go through corners. If you know how to navigate them right, then you can really just kind of glide through them and carry enough speed that when you get to the other side, you can just blitz by people. Which is why in this first stint of races I'm doing, you're seeing me just carve the field up. And Luigi, who happens to be my favorite character in all of Mario, I always felt bad for Luigi. I always thought he got a bum rap. And when Super Mario Bros. 2 came out, I started playing as him, and I rule that game with him, even to this day. So when I get a chance to play with Luigi, I have a lot of fun playing with him. I think by comparison to Mario, he's just a better brother. But you can see I'm winning by like 4 or 5 seconds. But then, you know, you get the fun of having this sort of presentation. But this is why Nintendo, more than any other game designer in the last 40 years, has been able to make games that are so accessible to everybody. You don't have to be a kid to play this game and have fun with it. This is a game that parents can play with their kids, and even it's not even a game that dads can play with their kids. It's a game that moms can play with their kids. You don't have to be of a certain gender or a certain type to like playing Mario Kart, which is why it is a truly great game. It really is. I'm going to bump this up to the 100cc class. I'm going to keep my boy Luigi. Now, the difference between 50cc and 100cc is obviously you're driving with twice the power in your engine. And Go-Karts are not the most powerful racing machines you will ever run. The fun part about driving Go-Karts, and I've driven quite a few in my life, is they just have that knack of giving you the right amount of steer that you can slide and have fun with it. Oop, whiffed on that. Oh! Ow. That Koopa shell's still out there. Oh, this couldn't have come at a better time. The only problem with the star, while it makes you invincible, it also makes you drive a little bit quicker. Nope, I'm not gonna let you hit me again. Ha! But the trick to this, even when you're driving the 100cc tracks, is knowing how to navigate your way through corners and how to be consistent. You want to just try and be smooth the way you're going around each lap, and you want to try and get as close to the similar times on each lap as you did when you started. And always your first lap's going to be slower because you're starting from a dead stop. But once you do that, it's just knowing how to hit the corners right, how to carry speed. And if you hold down the accelerator button, you get that wheel spin, which makes it harder for you to get off the line. But you can see that you carry a little bit more spin going through the corners than you do in the 50cc race. Whoop. I totally forgot that this had a jump feature on it. It's been so long since I played the original Mario Kart that I forgot if you hit the left or right shoulder button, you cause your kart to hop. And I cut the corner too fine there. Uh-oh. I don't think I'm going to catch Yoshi. Needed that. The red shells are always the one you want, because the red shells are like guided missiles. No! I can't believe I did that. I got stuck behind the pipe and now I'm in 5th. As we head to the line, I am not going to make the podium. And that's game over. So, or at least I got ranked out. So I shouldn't say it's game, or yeah, I get to retry. You get 3 continues in this game. But you can see when you go up to 100cc, it's a bit more of a challenge. Oh, and Yoshi jumped it. Saw the Koopa shell coming and managed to jump it. Okay. See if I can get around this time and not get stuck in that corner with that pipe. That was really annoying. But I don't think there will ever be a time when I will play this game and get bored with it. And if I do, I know it's probably going to be about time I give up playing games in general. I used to envy my friends who had a Super Nintendo. Because again, I never had one. I never had a 16-bit console of my own. But back in my early teenage years, when even I, as a 13, 14-year-old kid, did my share of babysitting in order to have some form of pocket money for what little of a life I actually had. There was one kid I babysat who had a Super Nintendo, and we played Mario Kart pretty much until the wheels came off. But you see what my point is when you look at my lap times about how I started off and it was hitting like 22 seconds a lap, and then it was 19s the rest of the way. That's the trick to this game, is getting that consistency down and just making sure that every lap you're reaching as close as you can to identical numbers. You're never going to really do that. But if you can keep it within maybe a half a second at most, that's the trick. Now on this level, you've got to be careful because those edges where it's open, you can fall off. I almost got myself in trouble there with a little bit of lag. Whoa, we got real close to the edge. Did not want that. Yoshi, quit dropping eggs, man. Seriously. I almost feel a Beatles song coming on. Cuckoo Gachoo. Don't hit that one. What you get for always lobbing those eggs at me. Oh, I fell off the edge. Crap. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Don't hit him. Whew. I came very close to not winning that race. If you get the top 4, you move on. Anything after that, you are out of luck. But see, that 21-second lap, because I fell off the edge, that almost took me out. Now, the worst level in this game is Rainbow Road, which I don't think we'll get to in this one. But unlike so many other racing games I've played where you can get so frustrated and just you want to smash the controller because it's either you're not able to drive it consistently or you're just finding it's just ridiculously tough to be able to maintain any sort of consistent steering. This game doesn't have that issue. And Mario Kart 64 was even better. in how the visual presentation is, because it was the first time they gave you a 3D scope, really. But I still prefer the 16-bit better. Because this really is the granddaddy. It's the one that they got the stars aligned on it perfectly. Last lap. I just have to make sure I don't mess it up. Coming around the corner, and we win by a lot. Wow. I think I beat Yoshi by a good 3 seconds there. I saved my best lap for last, which definitely helped. Yeah, I beat him by 3 seconds. Which in auto racing is pretty hefty. But like when I'm done tonight and I will get this video uploaded, I will most likely go grab my steering wheel and play either Gran Turismo Sport, which I've been having a lot of fun with for the last year or so, or because there's a Formula 1 race happening tomorrow, which is another reason why I want to play this game, is because I will make sure that when the Formula 1 season starts, I've been watching that since I was a kid. I'll probably pop on F1 2020 and play that for a bit. Which is a game I like, but it is far from a perfect game. Ah, crap. Back here, Yoshi. Yoshi, I'm coming. Oh, he hit himself on his own egg. Are you kidding? That's not Schadenfreude, I don't know what is. And you don't want to hit those oil patches, they will cause you to spin out. So you don't want to go wide into those corners if you can. Crap. Hit the pipe again. Get around in first. Swung it wide. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Yoshi's gonna beat me in this race, but I won the other races, so that should give me enough to win the cup. But see, it can be down to that little. If you swing wide on a certain corner, your opponent gets ahead of you, and he won by half a second. And that's how it is in racing. And this game, for an introduction into how, if you've ever been interested in racing, if you've ever liked racing, this is still a game that almost 30 years later, is so infinitely playable, and you can learn the basic fundamentals of how to drive fast in a fun package that you can play with friends, you can play with your kids, you can play with your parents. Like I said, it's just its position as one of the greatest games of all time is both well earned and well deserved. And if you've never played it, if somehow you've gone whatever your existence currently spans and you've never played any version of Mario Kart, seriously, go back, get an emulator. Again, I'm playing with SNES W, which you can find pretty much online. It's a free emulator. It's not very hard to install. It's not very hard to set up. Get yourself a copy of Mario Kart and play it. And you can also get it now on the SNES Classic. I believe there are new versions of it that are also out. I want to say on the Nintendo Store, if you can get it online. I'm not entirely sure, but it is still a game that if you play this game and you don't have fun with it, it's not the game's fault. It really isn't. But that, guys, is Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. If you enjoyed this, best way to show it, as I said, hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Don't forget, we have Sucker Punch Sunday coming up tomorrow, where we will play a fighting or fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. Also, we are in the final stages of our Final Fantasy VI first-time playthrough, again for the Super Nintendo. We've been playing it now for over 50 episodes, and we've got 2 dungeons to go. Actually, 2.5, I should say. And then we are finally done with it. I am hoping that will happen this next week. And then what I'll do is I'll take a short break from doing a playthrough. I'm going to do a couple of single day playthroughs and then see what will be next for our next feature series. You can follow us on Twitter at @Retrocade, and if also help us hit our goal of 100 subscribers. Sooner you do, we unlock the YouTube algorithms to customize the channel. And if there's any game you'd like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo, Sega Master System, Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, SNK, Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a tweet. As always, my name is Ronin. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. If I don't see you tomorrow, be safe, be well. Otherwise, I am back tomorrow for Sucker Punch Sunday. Bye.